Hello, welcome back to the Middle Ground. This is going to be a special edition related to current events, but I did want to take a day. This week was the anniversary, the fifth anniversary of the death of Senator John McCain. So I did want to take a moment to honor his memory and discuss his connection and experience in relation to my family as well as current events. Actually, my father went to flight school in Jacksonville. It was a very common naval flight school. He was the class behind John McCain and knew who John McCain was because of John McCain's father. So my father has watched John McCain's career. He expected John McCain to be appointed Secretary of the Navy or Secretary of Defense in following in his father's footsteps. But my father has been proud of McCain's service to the country, both in the military as well as in the government. John McCain did come to Yale during his presidential candidacy, and I was in New Haven at the time and was able to attend a master's tea that he held for people on campus. So that was a special moment because of my father's connection to him. He had released his book. My father went to a book signing dressed in his full flight gear, at least his flight jacket, to say hello to Senator McCain. I was in Senator Alexander's office, actually, in 2009, when Senator Alexander and Senator McCain were part of the discussion with Obama about the healthcare legislation. And because of John McCain's anniversary of his death, there has been this video from 5 years ago circulating, longer than 5 years ago, from 2014 invasion of Ukraine. And it's really interesting because he makes some comments about predicting Putin's actions in Ukraine, certainly holds the US and NATO zero responsibility for Putin's imperialism. So that's very interesting. This is somebody that my father respects, saying this is what's expected from Russia. This is not provoked by NATO or the United States, which has been a narrative that my father has believed sometimes, which has been surprising to me. So I'm really hopeful that my father can hear these words of someone he respects and admires from the grave. And he makes some interesting comments in this video as well. Here we go.
Vladimir Putin's ambitions were very well known to me and to others. He knew that once Yanukovych left, he had to take Crimea because of Sevastopol. Then he tried the separatists. That didn't work. He armed the separatists. That didn't work. So then he sent in thousands of Russian troops. The fact is that they were slaughtering Ukrainians. There were hundreds killed, thousands in the hospitals.
If you watch Timothy Snyder's lectures about the history of Ukraine, you'll actually learn that the native people of Crimea were the Crimean Tatars. They were completely driven out, and complete genocide of the Crimean Tatars, or the indigenous people group of Crimea, during this invasion.
Terrible. Poroshenko had no choice but to agree to a ceasefire. What is going to happen? I predict to you that it will be another step in Vladimir Putin's strategy to separate eastern Ukraine from Ukraine, and perhaps a land bridge to Crimea. No, it's a very bad.
Note that in February of 2020, when this hostility started, this was something I made a video saying this was Putin's end goal and all of the problems that it causes him, because the rest of Ukraine will join NATO if he tries to take part of Ukraine. It's a no-win situation for Putin to try to take part of Ukraine, was my conclusion in my video, which I will link below.
Result, and again, we would not send weapons to the Ukrainians when they were begging for them. We wouldn't even give them intelligence because we didn't want to, quote, provoke Vladimir Putin. By showing weakness, we provoked Vladimir Putin.
who do you mean by we? The United States? The United States working with the EU?
And of course the Europeans, but I wasn't surprised about the Europeans. I was deeply disappointed in the United States of America when they begged us for defensive weapons, and they wouldn't even do that. In fact, it was almost comical. They sent MREs.
Why were you not surprised by the Europeans, you say, not taking sufficiently tough action against?
Because they're dependent on Russian energy. It's obvious. It was obvious. And the United States, it was obvious that we weren't going to assist them, and because they don't want to, quote, provoke Vladimir Putin. And there's nothing that provokes Vladimir Putin more than weakness. We have to understand that Vladimir Putin's ambitions are the restoration of the old.
Very interesting words from Senator McCain from Beyond the Grave. I thought it was interesting that he was criticizing Obama's foreign policy, and obviously Obama and Merkel were working hand in hand, and this was very much Merkel's policy as well, and it has been a lot to overcome to help Germany move in a new direction and a new chapter in Germany's foreign policy. As you said, European energy independence in Russia has been, this has all stimulated a huge motivation for energy independence from Russia in Europe, which has been fantastic to see. It's definitely a national security issue in many European countries now, as well as Germany. So I know Obama and Merkel had similar points of view regarding Russia at the time, but I think it's interesting. Looking back in 2009, 2008, in my household, conservative household, when Obama ran for president, none of us elected him. I do remember, and none of us voted for him. I do remember reading The Economist's prediction that Obama would win, and I was a little bit okay with it. I wasn't mad about it. I never voted for Obama. I didn't support what I considered a very populist platform. I feel that there's a lot of progressive radicalization of this Obama cult, where all of these people who were teenagers perhaps during Obama's campaigns in the 2000s heard this, we hope we can do it, we can achieve this progressive platform, and they bought into that hook, line, and sinker. They drank the Kool-Aid. And then anybody else who doesn't fully support Obama is an evil, extreme right-wing person. And so there's always been and so I make a lot of videos criticizing the Republicans, criticizing the right. This is my criticizing the left, the progressives. Before Trump, before MAGA, this Kool-Aid of the Obama campaign platform and marketing, and particularly in this younger sector, who were so influenced by Obama's campaign promises and rhetoric that they think that that's the only way politics has to be done, and it's their way or the highway. And this is part of the problem in our radicalization today. MAGA is not the only problem. MAGA is a significantly worse problem, but there's this extremism and there's this religiosity and this ideology of like it's our way or the highway on both sides. And it's interesting this week that's been coming up in abortion as well. That's why I'm writing a book on that particular topic. But in 2009, what I saw in Obama's first years in office was that inexperience. And it's interesting this week, we're seeing it on the right with Vivek Ramaswamy. He is clearly inexperienced, doesn't want to do the functions of presidency, should not ever be qualified, is not qualified to run for office. And Chris Christie nailed it. When Vivek actually stole a line from Obama for his debate about the skinny guy on stage with the funny name, straight out of Obama's playbook. And so Vivek does feel to me very much like, not in a good way, the inexperienced, unqualified run of Obama. And all of the irony being the Republicans didn't vote for Obama because he was so inexperienced. We were like, he doesn't know what he's doing. Compared to Clinton, Clinton knew what he was doing. I just thought he was slimy and sleazy. But Obama's a stand-up guy. He's not slimy and sleazy, but he just had lacked the experience. And when he got into office, that 2009 chapter of reviewing the legislation with McCain and Alexander, he didn't take any constructive criticism from these senior leaders in the Republican Party. And that set him up for this obstructionism from the Republican Party, that he couldn't even take the constructive input from these senior leaders, Republican leaders. And so here again, there's the inexperience that Obama had in foreign policy in Ukraine in 2014, being criticized from the grave by Senator McCain. I just would like to put out there that progressives need to see the bigger picture with Obama, that he's not this holier than thou, did everything right, perfect saint, because I see a lot of that on Twitter. Who misses Obama? I never voted for the guy. Joe Biden, I am grateful that Joe Biden has so much more experience. Foreign policy is a prime example. So thank you, Senator McCain, for everything that you've done. And it was an honor to watch you as an adult this century and to hear my father's admiration for you throughout the 21st century. You are an American hero, and we do remember everything that you've contributed. Thank you for joining me.